At 30,000 feet, fear behaves differently. It doesn't scream right away. It waits. The flight began like any other. Routine checks, calm voices, passengers settling into seats, already thinking about where they were going instead of how they were getting there. The captain's hands moved with practiced ease across the controls. Years of repetition had turned motion into instinct. Outside the cockpit window, the sky looked peaceful. Too peaceful. The kind of calm that makes experienced pilots uneasy. As the aircraft climbed, the clouds ahead began to thicken. Not dramatic yet, just heavier, darker around the edges. Weather reports hadn't warned them, but the sky doesn't always announce its intentions. The first jolt came suddenly, not violent, just enough to make heads lift and conversations pause. Seatbelt signs flickered on. Inside the cabin, flight attendants smiled calmly, trained to project confidence even when uncertainty crept in. Then the second jolt hit, harder. Luggage rattled. A baby cried. Someone laughed nervously, hoping it was nothing. The captain glanced at the instruments. Everything still read normal. Still, something felt wrong. The clouds ahead swallowed the horizon. Light disappeared. The plane entered the storm. Rain slammed against the windshield like handfuls of gravel. The aircraft shuddered, metal groaning under invisible pressure. Turbulence escalated quickly. The kind that throws your stomach into your throat. The kind that reminds everyone on board that gravity is not a promise. Inside the cabin, voices rose. Gasps, sharp breaths. Prayers whispered into shaking hands. The aircraft dropped suddenly. Screams followed. Warning lights blinked red in the cockpit. One, then another. Alarms joined the storm, piercing and relentless. This wasn't routine turbulence. This was chaos. The captain tightened his grip on the controls. His jaw clenched. Training kicked in, but so did memory. At 30,000 feet, there is nowhere to run, only responsibility. The plane lurched violently to the left. A flight attendant stumbled but stayed upright, her knuckles white as she steadied herself. A flight attendant stumbled but stayed upright, her knuckles white as she steadied herself. Overhead bins rattled like they might burst open. Then came the sound every pilot dreads. The oxygen masks deployed. Yellow cups dropped from the ceiling, swinging wildly. The cabin filled with panic. Children cried openly now. Adults shouted names, gripping armrests, gripping each other. A man shouted instructions he barely remembered. A woman pressed her forehead to the seat in front of her, eyes closed, lips moving silently. In the cockpit, the alarms screamed louder. Red lights blinked like accusations. The captain's co-pilot looked at him, didn't speak, didn't need to. Both of them knew this situation wasn't in the manual. This wasn't a scenario practiced safely in simulators with instructors standing behind them. This was real. Rain distorted the windshield so completely that the outside world seemed to dissolve. Up felt like down felt like nowhere. The plane shook so violently it felt alive, angry, resisting. Inside the captain's chest, something cracked open. Not fear of dying, fear of failing. The old voices returned, uninvited. You don't belong here. You were never meant to fly. Pilots don't come from places like yours. For a brief, terrifying moment, he wasn't a captain. He was the boy behind the fence again, watching others rise while he stayed grounded. The aircraft dropped again. Harder this time. Passengers screamed. The co-pilot called out readings, voice strained but steady. Altitude fluctuating. Wind shear increasing. Systems under stress. Every second demanded a decision. Divert? Descend? Push through? The storm didn't care about hesitation. It demanded commitment. The captain felt sweat drip down his back despite the cold air of the cockpit. His heart pounded violently, loud enough that he wondered if the others could hear it. He thought of the passengers behind him, hundreds of strangers, families, children, people who trusted him without ever knowing his name. They had boarded the plane, expecting nothing extraordinary, just arrival. The sky threw the plane sideways again. The tray table snapped loose and crashed to the floor. Somewhere in the cabin, someone sobbed uncontrollably. The captain closed his eyes. Just for one breath. In that single second, time stretched. He remembered cracked hands, folded rejection letters, a voice that once said, "Some dreams are too expensive." He remembered standing behind a fence, believing that if he ever reached the sky, it would ask something back from him. This was the price. He opened his eyes. Fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. His voice, when he spoke, was calm, clear, measured. He chose the harder option. Not the fastest, not the safest on paper, but the one that gave them the best chance. He altered course, guiding the aircraft away from the heart of the storm, instead of trying to overpower it. The turbulence intensified briefly, as if the sky resisted being challenged. The plane shook violently, protesting every correction. But the captain stayed steady. Hands firm, mind focused. He spoke to the co-pilot with quiet authority. No panic, no doubt, just action. Minutes felt like hours. The storm battered them relentlessly. Every warning light demanded attention. Every alarm tested his resolve. Inside the cabin, passengers clung to seats, to prayers, to hope. Some stared at the ceiling, counting seconds between drops. Others held hands with strangers, eyes wide, sharing fear without words. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, the turbulence softened. The rain eased. The screaming alarms fell silent one by one. The plane emerged into lighter clouds. The worst was behind them. But the danger wasn't over. They still had to land. Fuel was limited. Systems were strained. The airport ahead waited like a narrow thread between disaster and relief. The descent was tense. The runway lights appeared through mist, like a fragile promise. The captain guided the aircraft down with precision, every movement deliberate. The landing was rough. Wheels slammed against the runway harder than anyone liked. The plane bounced once, then again, then finally stayed down. The engines roared as thrust reversed. The aircraft slowed and stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. No screams, no alarms, just breathing. Then applause erupted. It started with one person, then another. Then the entire cabin exploded into clapping, crying, laughter mixed with relief. Strangers hugged. People wiped tears openly. A child laughed, unaware of how close fear had come. In the cockpit, the captain leaned back in his seat. Exhaustion hit him all at once. His hands trembled now that the danger had passed. He exhaled slowly, deeply. He hadn't conquered the storm. He had respected it and survived it. Later, as passengers disembarked, many paused to look toward the cockpit. Some nodded, some whispered thank you. One woman pressed her hand to her chest, eyes shining. The captain didn't feel like a hero. Heroes seek recognition. He felt small, humble, grateful. That night, alone in a quiet hotel room, the storm replayed in his mind. Every jolt, every scream, every second of doubt. He sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. The sky had tested him, not his skill, but his worth. And for the first time since earning his wings, he understood something clearly. Flying wasn't about control. It was about responsibility, about carrying fear for others, about staying steady when everyone else couldn't. That flight didn't break him, but it changed him forever.